Welcome, it is December 4th, almost at Christmas, everyone. I hope everyone started their Christmas shopping. We are honored today with our special co-host, Mayor Audrey Scott of the town of Bowie, Maryland. And our honored guest is Todd Logsdon, the Mayor of Frostburg, Maryland. Welcome and take it away, guys.
All right, thank you very much, Dwight, and I'm thrilled to be here with Mayor Todd. And I was mayor. When you said Mayor of Bowie, that was in 1976, three terms, so a long time ago. But it's still very fresh in my mind, and I am so happy to be on the show here with Todd. And congratulations to you, Todd.
Well, thank you very much.
Very happy for you and the people of Frostburg.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being on here, and I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
So we were talking a little before we came on the show, and one of the things that you both have in common, other than being mayor, was that you were both elected beating incumbent mayors who had been in for quite some time. So I'm not sure which of you to start with, because that's obviously quite of undertaking. But Todd, tell us how you managed to do that.
So I decided to run for office. When I decided to run, I filed the paperwork and everything in March of this year. Of course, I had started to plan and talk about it before then with my wife and with some other folks in my orbit. And we decided that it was time to kind of shake things up. I mean, Frostburg is an up and coming place. We're a university town. Frostburg State University definitely drives the economy of our town. Numbers wise, we are certainly not the biggest city in the state or even in the area. Our population hovers right around 7,000. But we're definitely an up and coming place. And it had been quite some time since there had been any shakeup in local government at all. As our mayor and council, the 5 people that make up the mayor and council have had at that time all served for quite some time. And I decided that it was time to shake that up. So then I started to look at what position did I think that I fit in. And I really felt that I could do a good job and bring some fresh ideas to City Hall in the mayor's position. So I filed the paperwork and I challenged the incumbent mayor, who had been in office for 13 years. And I mean, it wasn't anything personal. A lot of times you think of small town politics, you think of personal issues that come up, and it really wasn't anything like that. I mean, the incumbent mayor, the previous mayor that I defeated, is a great guy. I mean, I've known him my whole life. He's a great guy, and he did a fine job in the position. But I really felt that in 13 years, it was time to do something different. I think if you're not moving forward, then you're moving backward. And we were definitely in a position where we weren't moving forward. So I ran and I was elected. And I will say that I was the only new face at City Hall in that last election. So all of my city council were returning incumbents who actually ran unopposed. My race was the only contested race in the election. So
interesting. That's really interesting. I had a similar situation in that I ran against an incumbent who had been in office for a long time, but mine was a little bit different. I too felt that it was time for some new blood and new vision, but I ran, obviously, I was a woman and I was running against a gentleman, and he didn't really put on much of a campaign because he just assumed that a woman wasn't going to beat him, that a woman wasn't going to get elected, because this was back in the 70s. So It was a different environment totally. I don't think that would hold true today.
Sure.
So, however, we were so organized, and instead of having like a precinct chairman, we had street chairman. I mean, every street had its own chairman. We were probably a 100% just about female organization, because at that time we had a lot of young housewives. It was in Bowie, and that too was a expanding, booming community, and a lot of young couples. And so we had a enormous campaign team. made up almost, as I said, entirely of women. And we were so over-organized that it was a great experience, a wonderful experience. So anyway, and I think too, being mayor, Todd, you'll find out, it's the government closest to the people. In that respect, it's the most rewarding because you see the results of your decisions almost instantly.
Mhm.
And you see the people that you're serving at the grocery store, at the gas station, at church, and it's very up close and personal. And then I also served on the Prince George's County Council for 8 years. And then I served at the federal level and I served at the state level. And nothing was quite as rewarding or personally satisfying as being mayor.
I couldn't agree more with. Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. The other thing that I was going to say is it's kind of interesting here now, this many years later, 30 years later, 70, 80, 90, more, 40 years later. Gosh, the years just fly by. But I go into a grocery store, or I've moved from Bowie since then, and I live on the Eastern Shore. And it's interesting. I'll go into the grocery store, or I'll be, out at the street or wherever, and someone will say, "Oh, Mayor Scott," and I know they used to live in Bowie. Yes, yeah. But the thing is, too, I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of, especially to women's groups, clubs, organizations. And not just for government, but in other positions that I hold, volunteer organizations and stuff. And when they do my resume, they introduce me. Now, I was on the Prince George's County Council, which has a lot more influence and power and authority. I was at General Deputy Assistant Secretary at HUD. Enormous budgets, enormous programs. Programs that, community development block grants and the UDAG program. And then I was Secretary of Planning for Governor Ehrlich. And I was on his cabinet. And yet, whenever I'm introduced or they mention my background or my history and anything, they always say, "Oh, you were mayor? You were mayor of Bowie?" It's the only one that people really remember and the one that they're most impressed with.
Well, and I think that kind of speaks to what you said earlier about local government being closest to the people. I mean, people, when you say these terms, the mayor, people know what the mayor does. Or I think they think they know what the mayor does.
Right, right.
But people don't necessarily, when you hear council or, county council or delegate or whatever, like you hear the words delegate for what, like what you're delegating what, but people know the executive branch terms. People know what the governor does. People know what the mayor does. Like, so I think that, and you said about being closest to the people, and being in the small community that we are, in my day job where I actually earn a paycheck, I'm also a teacher in the public school system. So I am used to being the face of the public. Like I see people, adults, children, everybody in my community all the time. And now that I've taken on this additional role, you're right. It really hits home with people who, the person is. You become approachable. You're someone that folks can talk to. I had one time, I don't know, a month ago, whatever it was, like it was fairly recently. One of my students came to school one day and handed me an envelope and said, "Here, my dad told me to give this to you and that you take care of it." Well, I opened it and it was their water bill with a check in it. "What is this for?" And he said, "Well, he just didn't want to mail it. And he figured if I gave it to you, you could just take it in."
Oh, how fun.
Just silly. I mean, just things like that are, quirky little Mayberry small town things.
You know what that is? What that is, Todd, that you're a public servant.
Yeah.
You're a public servant. Yes. Yeah. First and foremost, you're a public servant.
Right.
And if you're going to deliver the guy's water bill, then you're going to deliver the water.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I could have handed it back to the kids. No, you have to mail this. No, I'm just okay.
No.
So I was going to ask you, Audrey, what is the strangest constituent service request you got while you were mayor?
Oh, so many. This is one
I want Todd to know what he's got to look forward to, so you can set up you can set it up for him.
Well, whenever it snowed,
Oh my
Whenever it
God. Yes.
snowed, okay, that is a crisis. And everyone thinks that their street should be plowed first. And of course, Public Works they're going to plow the mayor's street first. Well, I would say do not.
No, they better not.
Do
They
not
better not.
plow my street first. Of course, all my neighbors didn't like that, but I would
Mhm.
say, please do not plow my street first. But then I would get the calls because people would shovel their driveways and then the plows would come. And when the plows came, they would create a little mound of snow at the
Oh,
end
yes.
of the driveway.
Oh, yes.
And man, I used to get so many phone calls from people saying, the plows just came down my street. And I was saying, oh, isn't that wonderful? Aren't you happy? No, I'm not happy because now I got to go out and plow the end of my street. I just finished plowing my driveway. So I would take my kids. I had 4 sons, all right?
Mhm.
And when I was mayor, they were all like in early teens, 12, 10, 13, 14, 4, and very close together. And I would put them in the car and we would take our snow shovels. And anyone that called me and said that they had to go and out and re-shovel their driveway, I would tell them, do not stay in your house. I'll take care of it. And we used to go around town shoveling the ends of people's driveways. It taught my children a lesson, that, people need help or people, are complaining. You try to do whatever you can to keep them happy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And that was, I would say, above and beyond the job description, but it was something that I just felt I would rather do it myself, get it done, than have them complaining and then complain all week to their neighbors and what have you. So that was, I don't know if it's the oddest thing that you'd consider, Dwight, but it was something that was a little different than I'm sure the other mayor who I beat in the election never shoveled anybody's driveway or the end of their driveway.
I know. We certainly know all about snow. For a matter of fact, it's snowing now.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, we're due to get 3 or 4 inches of snow tonight. We definitely know about that. I'll say I've only been in office for 5 months, but I'll say probably the I don't know, odd is the word. The most surprising thing, I guess I'll say that I'm finding is water. People get hot and bothered about their water all the time. How much the bill is, whether the bill we decided the finance department asked if we could switch from quarterly billing. Right now, we send our water, sewer, and trash bill quarterly. And they asked us if we could change it to monthly because it's easier for them to budget for payroll purposes or for whatever. And we honestly thought, too, that constituents would like it because all your other bills come
monthly. Right.
So it's easier to budget for instead of you get a quarterly bill and, oh, my gosh, now I owe $300 out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
And for the most part, it was. But there were some really angry people about why would you switch this and you're going to make me pay you 12 times a year instead of 4 times a year. And it's the same amount of money. We're just and I'm trying to help you. And also another one I just thought of, the siren at the firehouse drives people crazy. And you can understand why. It's loud, it's obnoxious, whatever. You're a mother with kids at home, you're trying to put them down for a nap at 2 p.m, and then the siren goes off. I mean, I get it. But the fire department needs it. I mean, they use it, and it's not like we can move it somewhere. The fire station is where it is. So,
well, I will say this about that: when people buy a house, if it's next to the fire station, I think it has to be an automatic assumption that they're going to hear the fire siren go off.
You would think.
We had in Bowie, when Bowie was built as a complete community by Levitt at one time, and it wasn't gradual in any sense of the word. And when it was zoned, they left a large area in the center that was zoned commercial, and it was called Bowie Newtown Center. But it was never built because the population wasn't able to support it at the beginning of the town. Mm-hmm. And so as the town grew and grew, eventually it was at a point where it was feasible to build the commercial center. And so the commercial center was built, with like a Macy's and a Sears and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, restaurants and office buildings. And you cannot believe the uproar and the complaints and the protests, because people who lived next to the new town center were in uproar because they were having this Macy's built next door, or they were having the Sears, or they were having, and when they bought their house, the property was zoned commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, when you're going to go buy a house, the first thing you should do is go down to City Hall and find out how the property around you is zoned, especially if it's vacant property.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no surprises. Every single one of those persons who lived next to Newtown Center and complained to the mayor that we, shouldn't be turning this green space into commercial development, we had to say that was zoned and that has been planned for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now coming to fruition. So anyway.
Now, Audrey, you were very active in the Maryland Municipal League.
Yes.
As I recall. And you could probably elaborate how the league works with municipalities around the state and the role it plays.
Well, I don't know, Todd, if you're familiar at all with MML.
Yeah, a little. I went to one conference. Yeah.
Did you? Well, you become mayor or you become a city councilman, and there's no training for that. I mean, you may have gone to a few meetings, and some people get elected. They've never even been to a city council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not unusual. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, good or bad. It's just the way it is.
Sure.
Maryland Municipal League I was president of Maryland Municipal League. I have tremendous, tremendous faith in Maryland Municipal League and also MACO, the Association of Counties. They provide the training and the expertise that you need to do your job. Mm-hmm. And it's an extremely valuable experience to attend their work sessions and to sign up for the conferences and mm-hmm. the conventions that they hold. And you not only learn from experts, but you learn and meet your colleagues throughout the state. And believe me, there's not a single problem you'll encounter that hasn't been encountered by someone else.
Oh, sure.
Not just one someone else, many someone else's. And our newspaper, we had a local newspaper that used to, every single year when we'd send the mayor and the city council members to MML in Ocean City, mm-hmm. would do this editorial blasting us for spending taxpayers' money to go on this boondoggle to the beach. And it was so unfair because everyone, and I won't say everyone, there's always those that take advantage of a situation. But most of the people who go there to learn and go mm-hmm. there to become better representatives, better elected officials, better able to do their job. And they go to the meetings and they do learn. And they're not out lying on the beach and surfing the water. They're at the convention, they're at the meetings, and they're learning how to do their job. And citizens should support it.
Oh, I completely.
I was going to say, I don't want to be difficult, but aren't the meetings always in Ocean City?
They're not always in Ocean City. So no. The one that I just went to a month in November was in Cambridge.
Right.
I think the fall conference bounces around. It does. Okay. In various locations. It just happened to be in Cambridge this time, but.
There's a summer conference, Dwight. It's actually in June. Mm-hmm. And that is always in Ocean City because it has the largest convention hall. There's mm-hmm. not many places except in Baltimore City. There's not many places in the state and maybe National Harbor that can accommodate that larger group. Sure. It's thousands and thousands of people.
Oh, yeah, it was tons of folks.
Yeah, but then they have a fall conference and they rotate that all around the state, and that's not as large. There's not as many vendors, and it's not as large an undertaking. And mm-hmm. then in each county, they have their local municipal meetings. Like in Prince George's County, I don't know about your county, Todd, but in Prince George's County, there's 29 municipalities. Mm-hmm. So we had monthly meetings of the MML local chapters. Mm-hmm. So there's opportunities to do it locally and then to do it statewide.
Yeah, we're the same. So in Western Maryland and Allegheny County, we only have 7 municipalities in Allegheny County, but we pair with Garrett County, which is to our west.
Right.
And between the two of us, we have 15 or 16. So that's enough to make a chapter.
So you have a regional.
Yes,
you have a regional MML meetings throughout the year.
Yeah, 4 or 5 times a year. Yeah.
Right. And they always have a theme. They usually have a theme on, several issues like transportation or what have you. Energy,
tourism, any kind of
tourism, water, sewer, whatever.
Yeah.
You're dealing with.
No, I couldn't agree more. MML's wonderful. Go ahead, Mark.
So I was going to ask, we've already talked about some of the services. You've talked about water, and I think you alluded to trash pickup. What are some of the other services that Frostburg provides?
So Frostburg is a full-service municipality. We provide all utilities, water, sanitary, sewer, trash pickup, recycling. We have a police department. We have 11 sworn officers on our police department. We're getting ready to hire 2 or 3 more. We'd like to get it up to 15, but as anybody knows that deals with government, police officers are becoming a rarity. Nobody wants that. A lot of folks are kind of dissuaded from going into law enforcement just because of the way that they're treated at the state and the national level. So we have police protection. Our fire service is technically volunteer, but it is partially funded by the city. We have 13 community parks, city parks that we manage, the city pool in the summertime. We do economic development. Frostburg's a full service municipality. For as small as we are, like I said, around 7,000 residents, we're very fortunate also to have the university in our town, and we partner a lot. We share a lot of resources with the university. That's able to we're really able to punch above our weight as when it comes to provision of services to our residents.
What about the schools? Is the public school system part of your responsibility?
Hold on just a second. Hey, would you? The school? No. The school system is managed through the county.
Right. Yeah. Ours was too. Ours was strictly a county system.
Yeah. We have a high school and 2 elementary schools within the city limits, and then others, outside of the city limits. And we do whatever we need to do to help them and make sure that they're taken care of too, but it's not managed by the city.
You mentioned something that's very interesting, and Bowie has Bowie State University, a major, huge university. I don't know the enrollment, but it's probably comparable to Frostburg. And the city and the college are totally separate, and there's very little communication or any kind of cooperation, joint events or anything between the two. And that was something when I was mayor that I worked feverishly to try to tie the university and the city together. I went out and I served on many of their committees. I served on a search committee for their new president. I made myself very available. And they had a homecoming parade every year for their football team. And I always went to that, and I always was the marshal of the parade. But and they don't have, at the time, they're strictly a commuter college. They don't have very many dorms. And so I always thought that, that was something that we also as a community could provide housing. Because I know in College Park, a lot of the homes rent their rooms to students. And it never really materialized. It never, and it still hasn't to this day. They're like 2 separate entities. Even its Bowie State University is in Bowie, Maryland, and never the twain shall meet.
See, we do a pretty good job of that here in Frostburg. And I will say that was one of the things that I ran on, was really cultivating that relationship with the university, because it is certainly beneficial to both sides. I mean, and like I said, we do a pretty good job of that in Frostburg anyway. Of course, everything could be better, but I'll give you an example. This weekend coming is one of our biggest festival type event, one of our biggest community events of the entire year. We have an event called Frostburg Storybook Holiday. It's our big, holiday Christmas thing. And it's all day long on Saturday. It starts with a parade. There's the elves come and they play games. And it's the university actually puts it on. So the College of Education within Frostburg State University runs it. So all these students that are aspiring to be teachers that want to work with kids that want to do this is their big community service, give back to the community thing. And they get fully into it. They dress as elves and they go play games and they make arts and crafts and they write letters to Santa, and somebody dresses up as Jack Frost and rides around on the back of the fire truck and throws snowballs at kids in the neighborhoods. It's a huge thing. And it's hundreds of people from the university that put this on, and they do thousands and thousands of man hours of labor. And it's great. And I mean, there's other things too, but this is definitely the biggest one of the year coming up. And we are housing. You mentioned housing too. I think, what did she tell me? Our city administrator told me the other day, it's not quite half. It's like 42 or 43% of the homes within the city of Frostburg, the physical homes, are rental units. And a lot of them, especially in the neighborhood around the college, are college rentals. They're rented to college students on a seasonal basis. So we have a huge rental housing program, which of course means that we need folks to do code enforcement and inspections.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's wonderful that you've been able to do that. And it's something that still needs to be done in Bowie.
Yeah. And I think too. Go ahead,
Go
Mark.
ahead.
No.
Well, I was going to ask, if could change the subject a little bit. It's just, you mentioned the services that you do provide. I'm assuming that from time to time, people think the city provides services that you don't provide. Do you have any examples of that?
I would say one of the things that shocks people or surprises sometimes newcomers to the city, people that are not from the area that have moved here, things like the sidewalks. People are always flabbergasted when they find out that like homeowners are responsible for the sidewalk in front of their home or their business, right? Especially businesses. If it snows, if we get 4 inches of snow tonight, like we're expecting, you're expected to dig out your own sidewalk, even though the city built the sidewalk, even though the city, whatever, it's the homeowners. And people are always like just amazed whenever, code enforcement shows up or a policeman walks by and says, hey, are you going to take care of your sidewalk? Like that's an unusual thing, I think, for some people. And I know that may be different in other towns. Maybe that's why people are surprised about it. But
it's interesting. And I have no idea what the situation is in Bowie, because on my street in Bowie and most streets in Bowie, there are no sidewalks. So now there are some of the major. I was going to say,
that's one way to solve the problem, right?
Right, no sidewalk. Well, some of the major thoroughfares, the main streets, I wasn't on a main street, had sidewalks. And I have no idea who was responsible. That's something I'm going to find out. That's very interesting, Todd.
I'll say too, I think, and this is something that could have been mentioned whenever we were talking about how the election worked. And Audrey, you'll be able to attest to this too. This is something that I tell other people. I mean, in my capacity when I serve on the Central Committee and candidates reach out to me, what can I do to connect with Allegheny County, whatever, I give everybody the same advice. And it's what I used when I was running too. There is absolutely no substitute for knowing your community, being a part of your community. You have to know what they want to talk about. You have to know why they think it's important, and you have to have a position on it, and you have to genuinely be a part of your community, and you can't fake it. You can tell when it's fake, when people throw the example I give all the time. I gave this example at the GOP convention the other day in the grassroots meeting. Western Maryland, right? People think of Western Maryland and it's like everything from Carroll County up, right?
Right. Yeah.
So anytime we get candidates, whether it's for CD6, whether it's for Senate, whatever, and somebody will come visit us in Frostburg or Cumberland or someplace, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I love Western Maryland. I come out. Matter of fact, I was just in your neck of the woods 2 weeks ago. I was in Frederick." That drives me crazy. That drives us in Allegheny County and in Garrett County. That drives us crazy. We do not consider Frederick to be part of Western Maryland. I mean, it's nothing against Frederick. It's a lovely place.
Right. But it's not Western Maryland.
No, it's still, you drive to Frederick, you still have 2 hours of driving until you get to Frostburg. I mean, so just something like that. But knowing the issues that are important to the community, why they're important, and just being able to be genuine. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a local person, whatever. I'll put it in a kind of blunt way. Like, we accept outsiders, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be genuine and honest. You can't pretend that you're something that you're not, right?
Well, I think I advise people, there's not hundreds. There's a lot of committees in any community.
Mhm.
You can volunteer to get on the rec committee, volunteer to get on the library board, volunteer, get involved in your community.
I have 20 boards and commissions probably
Right.
that answer to the city of Frostburg. And I'll bet at least half of them have at least one vacancy.
Exactly. And that's what I'm referring to. And people want to get involved, or they want to run for office, and I'll say, well, what have you done? What committees are you on?
Mhm.
What, get involved, And the other thing is, as far as running for office, people ask me all the time, and I still advise and counsel. You've got to like people.
Yeah.
I get my highs from people. I've never had to use drugs or even alcohol. I get my highs from people. And I had one gentleman ask me once he wanted to run for office, and I met with him, had lunch with him, talked with him, and he was readily admitted that he wasn't comfortable around crowds or large people, but he loved the policy. And I said to him, you should get involved in policy, get involved in some of the committees that deal with the policies of things, but you do not want to run for office. You're going to be miserable. You will not enjoy it. You've got to like people, and you've got to like all the kinds of people, the people that you wouldn't ordinarily associate with.
And you have to pretend. Even if you don't, you have to pretend.
Well, even not pretending, you've got to see the good in everyone.
That's a better way to say it.
They're right. I try to see the good in everyone and be a positive influence and be a positive force for good. And, I know that sounds Pollyanna, but that's basically...
it is.
That's my credo. That's my mantra.
Well, and the small town thing too, I think it helps. It helps to do that, knowing your community, knowing people, liking people when you're familiar. I'm fortunate in that, I have lived in Frostburg my whole life. I'm not a transplant. I've lived here my entire life. And I'm 34 years old, which is pretty young. I understand that. People tell me all the time that I'm like an old soul. My mother tells me that I should have been born 30 years before I was. She tells me all the time, like, you were middle age when you were born. So you have to be able to relate to people. Relate to the older generations, relate to the newer generations. The kids, I teach 16-year-olds all day at school. They keep me young. And I know everything there is to know about this town, I think. And I love it. And that's something you can't fake. You got to wear that on your sleeve.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right.
Hey, Todd, on that note, how are the slopes this weekend as an avid skier?
I think don't impeach me for perjury if this turns out to be incorrect. Of course, I could get a pardon for that probably. But I think
apparently
you get a blanket pardon.
Yeah, I'll just take a blanket pardon. I think that the WISP is open in Garrett County. I think it just opened this week. That may not be true, but I think that it is.
Well, I could Google it if you'd like.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, we could probably do that.
And the Polar Express is running, right, every day?
Yes, the Polar Express train is running. The Western Maryland Scenic Railroad Polar Express train is running every single day between now and Christmas, sometimes twice a day. It's great. It's a great family event. Western Maryland Scenic Railroad, you get to see one of the physically largest steam locomotives still in operation, coal-fired steam engines still in operation in North America.
You mean Joe Biden hasn't come to shut that down for you, your coal-fired steam engine?
I don't think he knows about it.
I rode that in September. It was wonderful. Yeah, we rode to Frostburg, had lunch, and we had a wonderful time. Got back on the train, went back to Cumberland. It was just a great experience.
Yep, it is very nice.
I recommend it to anyone. Yeah, it was really fun. It was my second time doing it.
And as a rail enthusiast, I think if you guys really want to see springtime on the Western Maryland Railroad is beautiful. everyone needs to take a ride in the springtime.
Mhm.
And the Polar Express is really nice too at this time of year, especially the snow-covered hills and so on.
Yeah.
So what are some festivals you guys have? I mean, I know you guys have a lot of fun festivals in the winter months, more so than even the summer months.
So probably the biggest one that we'll do, at least for the foreseeable future, is that storybook holiday I was talking about.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
this coming weekend. It's sponsored by the College of Education Children's Literature Center at Frostburg State. All day event, very family friendly event. Come out. There's indoor, outdoor stuff. It's all day long. It'll end with we have our old time classic theater in town, our nonprofit classic theater. They'll play. I think they're doing White Christmas this year. They did a different movie last year. And that's probably it as far as holiday activity, at least in Frostburg. I don't know what.
Right.
I'm sure there's stuff going on in Cumberland and some other places, but I can't think of right off the top of my head. And then
don't go to Cumberland, go to Frostburg.
Right. Well, go through Cumberland to get to Frostburg. Yeah.
Well, I want you to know that WISP opens this Friday, and it'll be open
Friday.
this Friday. It'll be open from 9 to 4,
Okay.
9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Maybe next weekend I will pay you a visit, Todd.
That'd be great.
And
We've
you can
got-
buy your tickets online.
I tell you all the time, Dwight, we've got tons of pizza places in Frostburg.
I know, and I do want to come to try the pizza places.
You need,
that's-
you need to bring the pizza club here. I'll
We
pay
will.
my dues or whatever I have to do. I'll take you around.
Yeah, definitely. Pizza with the mayor. We've
Yeah.
had pizza with the governor, now pizza with the mayor. Yeah.
So let me
But,
ask you about the relationship working with the county. How do you divide responsibilities with your county? And Audrey, you've obviously had experience with both municipalities and the county, and they have a
Yes.
perspective on both.
Let me share with you when I was president of MML, we passed a law, state law, for to eliminate double taxation. And what was happening is municipal residents were paying for services that from the county that they were already receiving from the municipalities, like snow removal or for water. Anyway, it was called double taxation. And we were able to get that bill successfully passed. Usually getting a bill passed in Annapolis takes, like the covered load bill took 14 years or something.
Well, and especially a bill to lower taxes. When has
Yes.
Annapolis ever wanted to do that?
Right. But we were successful because it made sense. It was double taxation. People in municipalities were paying for trash collection they were paying to the county, but the service was being provided by the municipality. So they were paying for a service twice, once to the county for which they weren't receiving the service, and once to the city for which they were receiving the service. So what the result of that is, and you can check this, Todd, right now, annually, municipalities and counties are supposed to agree on a list of services. And I don't think they do it annually. They probably do it, every 5 years now or something like that. But when it first started out, we would review that list and make sure that the municipality residents were not paying for any services at the county that the municipality. And it did cut down on their county tax bill.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Well, I think so. That
Dramatic.
happens. So that's true in this county too. There are, like I said, there are 7 municipalities in Allegheny County, but they vary wildly in population and the services that they provide. I mean, the city of Cumberland has couple thousand residents and provides even greater services than what the city of Frostburg does. And then we have a lot of small towns that have maybe a couple hundred folks that provide very few services.
Right.
So
Exactly.
the county taxes, and that's both the property tax and the piggyback tax, the income piggyback tax, are shared between the county. So, for example, the property tax, and I'm sure these numbers are not accurate. I'm just going to use round numbers.
Just use numbers.
But say your county property taxes are 75 cents per hundred. So whatever. 75 cents per $100. If you live in the county, in the unincorporated areas of the county. If you live in the city of Frostburg, your property taxes are, let's say, 40 cents per $100. But then the city also assesses a property tax of
Right.
40 cents. So your property tax might be marginally higher if you live in the town, but that's because the value of your property is higher, and it works out to more or less the same. But then, like I said, Cumberland, they provide more services, so their county tax rate would be lower than Frostburg.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you, back in before I don't know when that bill passed, probably 1980 or so, 81, when I was president of MML. Before that, municipal residents paid a much higher tax because they were paying for services they didn't receive.
Mm-hmm. And you asked about, Mark, this question started with the relationship between the cities and the counties. I mean, I can only speak from my own, but Allegheny County as a whole, I mean, even geographically large area, very large area, very rural and outspread, but very small in population. For a lot of purposes, we consider it to be one community. I mean, it's really nothing. And I understand in urban areas this is different, but if we say I live in Frostburg and I have to run to Westernport, the town of Westernport, which is 25 miles from here, it's a good half-hour drive, but it's not a big deal, right? I mean, like, we share services all the time. The county, there's a county road that has a rock slide or something, so the road's closed, and the county truck that deals with that is out of commission. So there's, a couple county workers there to fix it, but they don't have the truck. But the city of Frostburg has a truck they can use. We send the truck down like it's a city truck, but the county guys are using it. We at least in Allegheny County have a very good working relationship, not only with the county, but with the other towns too. I mean, Ray Morris, the mayor of Cumberland, and we get along great. We see each other frequently. Like, we definitely get along. The other towns are the same thing.
So we're coming towards the end of the show, but what we normally do is give everybody an opportunity to plug something that they've got coming up. It sounds, Todd, like you've got some stuff to talk about for this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would encourage and invite anybody who is willing or able to come on out to Frostburg Saturday, anytime, part of the day, all day, and bring your kids. It's definitely a family-friendly event. From 6 to 106, anybody can find something to do for Storybook Holiday. Come out. Come see the polar. Even if you don't ride the train, it's still neat to see when it pulls into the train station and the steam billowing, and then they put the engine on the old turntable and spin it around. Once we thaw out for spring, I would encourage folks to come visit the Gap Trail, the walking and bike trail that starts in Cumberland and goes all the way to Pittsburgh. It's, Frostburg's a 4-season destination.
Audrey,
well said.
What do you got? What do you want to push?
Oh my gosh. Well, I just have to tell you, we just had our Talisman Therapeutic Riding Banquet last Saturday, which was 2 Saturdays ago. I'm sorry. It was a tremendous success. That is a local therapeutic riding program here. We're so fortunate to have it right here in Queen Anne County. And one of my sons had a stroke, and I became familiar with it because he was taking therapy riding lessons there. And so now I'm on the board, and now I'm doing fundraising. So, but it's such a worthwhile cause. They do also Wounded Warriors from Walter Reed come out on buses, and the relationship between the horses and the individuals is amazing. It's just unbelievable. We also do autistic children who have never spoken at home, and they'll talk to the horse, and the parents are there just sobbing. They haven't heard their child speak, and the child will develop this relationship. When they come for their session, we call them riders. We don't call them patients or clients. We call them riders, all our riders. They have the same horse every time. So they build a relationship with that horse. And the horse gets to know they recognize the person. It's an amazing, we say it's a place where miracles happen every day. So anyway, we just had a big fundraiser. And then last Thursday, I chaired a luncheon where we were honoring the watermen. which is the second industry in Maryland, agriculture being the first, and the waterman industry and seafood industry. We honored the philanthropist and the volunteer and the nonprofit, but it was just a room full of luminaries on the Eastern Shore, because we had Jim Perdue make the presentation to Steve Phillips of Phillips Crab House and Jim Perdue of Chicken. It was a phenomenal, and we had former Governor Bobby Ehrlich made the presentation to the Oyster Recovery Program. So yeah, it was a really fun event and very, very rewarding, and a great fundraiser. We did very, very well. So that's what I've been doing.
Dwight, you've got two things to push, right? Tomorrow night and on Sunday.
Yeah, tomorrow night we got Pizza and Politics with Delegate Chris Tomlinson from Carroll County, which is not Western Maryland. I think Washington.
You know what? I'll take Chris Tomlinson though. I'll count him as part of Western Maryland. He's a friend.
Yes.
Chris is a great guy. I actually count Washington County and west as Western Maryland, frankly.
I would say anything from Hagerstown up, I would say is real Western Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, as Frederick, I hate to say it, Frederick is more like Montgomery County North, and it's becoming more and more like that, sadly.
Well, Frederick County went Harris this time. Unbelievable.
And then we have Christmaka coming up on Sunday.
Yes, our Christmaka party is Sunday. It's the Kacha Bullock Tourists for Tots United States Marine Corps Christmaka party.
Wow.
We incorporated Hanukkah and Christmas. It's unfortunately I will not be there, but it's a great event. We have over 40 RSVPs. So
Excellent.
yeah, and hopefully next year, Audrey, you'll be able to make it out to that. Which also means, by the way, we're not going to be able to go to Missoni's this Saturday, as we were talking. So we decided to move that to the 14th. But
what is Chris Missoni doing on Saturday?
Oh, he's got a restaurant, and we were just all going to go. We were all going to go there and have lunch over there at Missoni's.
Oh, nice! I would go on Saturday for lunch with Missoni, and I would absolutely love to go to the Cotchabulic, Christmas,
Yeah.
but I am leaving tomorrow morning, as I told you. I'm going to be in St. Louis, so I'm going to miss everything, and I'll be back next week. So
yeah, we're moving it from Saturday to the 14th because I got to go to my uncle's funeral on Saturday in Georgia. So
okay.
And by the way, my uncle used to always watch this show and our sister show, Dr. Politics. Every week he'd watch it. So we lost one viewer today. But anyways, also, I guess, Mark, you and I were going to go to Missoni's now for our late night snack.
We'll do that next weekend, not the following weekend.
Yeah.
So thank you both. I think we've both gotten the sort of look behind the curtain, if you will, at what it's like to be a mayor in Maryland. And we thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. Anytime. Call me anytime.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And it was good to meet you, Todd. I hope I'll see you around the campus.
Thank you, Audrey. Yes.
Hey, real quick, Todd, what's the website for Frostburg if people want to learn about stuff you have going on the
www.frostburgcity.org. And that'll take you to the city government website. And then there's a link from there to go to our calendar of events and tourism related info also. www.frostburgcity.org.
There you go. Take care, everyone, and see everyone next week.
Hey, thank you very much. All right.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Bye.